this is Nutty and this is Nutty Talks A Week in Wrestling. And yes, there will be spoilers towards the end of the video. I will say, before I start talking about Smackdown, because I've just watched it and obviously it hasn't aired in the US yet, so I will tell you before I start talking about Smackdown so you can switch off the video. Okay, I didn't do a Money in the Bank review because I didn't get to watch it live. I didn't get to watch it until Monday. So I'm just going to give you a run through of my thoughts of Money in the Bank, of Raw, of CmPunk and the whole Punk storyline, and of Triple H and Vince from this week, and then the Smackdown. Okay, so Money in the Bank. I got home Monday morning, desperately tried to avoid seeing any spoilers. Started watching the pay-per-view. Absolutely marked out for Daniel Bryan winning. I thought it was amazing. Honestly, I kind of think that they were aiming for it to be Sin Cara, and then he messed up with the wellness policy thing. So I think Daniel Bryan was probably transitioned in. I also think they're kind of running with the Daniel Bryan because of the Punk thing and because of the popularity of the ROH guys at the moment. It is kind of an ROH revolution in WWE. Divas match was blah. Mark Henry versus Big Show was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because I thought it was going to be wank. And it was watchable. Raw Money in the Bank was cool. The guy everyone expected to win won, Alberto Del Rio, fair enough. Though I must admit, I have to give Miz some props for the fact that he legitimately whacked his knee and that looked like hell. And he still came back to fit in the spot that he knew he had to do in the match, which was kind of like, I was really pleased for him that he did that, because it kind of showed he's not the complete wimp that he seems to have become over the last few weeks. Christian winning was brilliant. Orton's kind of gone back to Psycho Orton. I don't know what it is about Orton that I like him more when he's chasing the title than when he has it. I will mention Orton a bit later on as well. John Cena versus CmPunk, awesome match. A few people have said, sort of, do you class it as a 5-star classic or don't you? What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my 10 factors for rating a match. So if you want to sort of work out what you'd give for each section, and then you can work out whether you honestly consider it a 5-star match or not. But I do think there are a lot more factors than in-ring moves. So my 10 factors for rating a match are match moves, storytelling, psychology, selling, build-up, uniqueness, emotional involvement, suspension of disbelief, crowd reaction, and expectation. So that's my 10 factors for what makes a match whatever rating you give it. I think they managed to do something that's quite rare for WWE. It's from the very start of the Punk Cena match, suspension of disbelief was complete. It was because of the build-up, because of the uniqueness, because of the expectation, because of the emotional involvement, you had no problem suspending your disbelief during this match. and that for me is as much a major part of what makes a match good as the moves in the ring. I did hear that Dave Meltzer gave it 5 stars for the first time he's given a WWE match 5 stars in a really long time. So that was kind of interesting. I wonder what factors he actually uses. But yeah, it was an amazing match. Loved seeing Punk run out the crowd with the belt. Superb. And obviously, on Raw, CmPunk was quite happily sat at a baseball game having a laugh while we were watching Raw, and he was tweeting. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was very, very effective. I want to make a point about this week's Raw, and a lot of people have dissed this week's Raw, and what I find most intriguing is, like, a lot of the people that were dissing this week's Raw are the people who keep using hashtag we want wrestling. Well, you got a very wrestling based Raw. I think that Raw had more wrestling on it than we've seen in a good long while. It was match followed by match followed by match followed by match followed by match, but because the crowd wanted CmPunk, it was a really quiet crowd, which was did, I think, put a kind of downer on it. But I really like the fact that they gave us a wrestling packed show. The ending part with Triple H and Vince, I got a lump in my throat. I'm not saying that I think it's 100% legit. Vince is still the CEO and the official chairman, but I do think this is what I would call a dry run. I think Vince is handing over a proportion of the power to Triple H to see how he handles it, to see how him and Steph actually handle running it day to day before the day comes when they have to. But it was quite a moment, and it did bring a tear to my eye, and it did give me a lump in my throat, because Vince created and shaped something that I've loved for 20 plus years. So it was kind of sad, and I think the crowd were going with it being storyline up until Vince got upset and Triple H left the ring, and then they suddenly hit them that they actually genuinely might not see Vince on screen for a while, and they did chant "Thank you, Vince," which I'm really glad about. I'm glad that they did kind of give it that acknowledgement, because at the end of the day, the guy's 66 years old. You know what I mean? He is your grandpa. For a lot of the younger fans, he's your grandpa, and he doesn't need to be running the WWE every single bit, day to day, every 7 days a week. He doesn't need to be doing that anymore. He should be relaxing with all of his money and his grandkids. I mean, that's what his life should be. And I think anyone who sort of who's putting down that, I think it's a bit selfish. I do like the fact that they're easing in Triple H, and I like the fact that Vince has done this so that he is there as a safety net, because obviously Triple H and Steph are going to get the visible control if and when Vince is no longer with us. So I think doing this sort of dry run and giving him enough control to see what he does with it is very interesting, and I'm very curious to see where Triple H is going to go with it. I don't think you're going to get a sudden change. I don't think you're going to get a real sort of sudden switch but I do think you are going to get some subtle changes because Triple H's career was made in the Attitude Era. So I think you probably are going to have that leaning towards the more AG stuff. I don't think we're going to go back to TV14, TVMA. I do think we might get a PG-13 product, which is just, and maybe a couple of TV14 pay-per-views over the period, but it won't be straight away. It will be a slow, smooth transition because the WWE is very good at doing this. They're very good at handling changes. Right, the other bit I wanted to talk about, and I'm now going to talk a little bit about Smackdown. So, if you haven't seen it yet, press pause or click the button in to watch later and watch the last bit of the video later. If you're not worried about spoilers, which I know some of you aren't, but I know I am, and I get really narky if somebody spoils me, which someone did about a part of this Smackdown. So what I'm going to say is switch off the video now if you don't want spoilers. Okay? Okay. Really enjoyed Smackdown. I thought it was a really good show. It was quite funny from the vault match that they picked, because it was Gail Kim versus Michelle McCall. It's nice that they actually remember that Gail Kim is one of the few women wrestlers in WWE who can actually wrestle. And I do think that we lost a lot of that transition because of Karma not being able to stay. I do think that WWE does need to transition back into certainly using the women wrestlers rather than the cheerleaders, because as much as the cheerleaders are pretty to look at, they're not entertaining in the in-ring sense. I mean, to be fair, Kelly is improving, but 6 years it's taken her to get to this point. And it's sort of like there's girls sat backstage like Beth Phoenix, like Natalia, like Gail Kim, like Melina, who really can wrestle and really do have in-ring talent, and it's a shame that they're being wasted. I think I almost wish that there was still the women's title, so that you could have the Barbies fighting for the Barbie belt and the women's wrestlers wrestling for the women's title, because in a way I think that actually worked better, because it gave the girls who could wrestle a title of their own and the Barbie dolls their cheerleader title. Though I know a lot of people disagree with me because it means more divas on pay-per-views, but I would rather see the good women wrestlers given that chance. The second bit of Smackdown, which I want to comment on, was Daniel Bryan coming down with his briefcase. Honest to God, I could hug that boy to bits. He's just adorable. And he made it clear that he was going to cash his money in the bank in the main event at WrestleMania. Love that. Absolutely think that's brilliant. One slight question, as unfortunately my mind always does this, like a little corner of my mind, the hand's going up, going, but what the hell does that mean for the Royal Rumble? Because if Cena's going to have the belt to face The Rock, and Daniel Bryan is facing whoever the world champion is at Mania, what exactly is the winner of the Royal Rumble going to get? because they're not going to be in either of the main events. It's a really, really interesting one. I'm sort of like thinking, okay, so what the hell does the Royal Rumble mean now? I mean, granted, last WrestleMania, the World title going on first was really crap and did downgrade the Rumble. But even still, it was a WrestleMania match for a world title. But this Royal Rumble, it's going to be, how are they going to put, unless they take the belt off Cena for Cena and The Rock, unless they keep the belt off Cena, and whoever it is faces whoever has a WWE title. Or a three-way, I suppose, is the other way it could happen. You could have, well, I presume they wouldn't do a three-way for Rock Cena, so it would be a three-way for the World Heavyweight Championship. It's an interesting one, that one. I still haven't quite wrapped my head around that. There was a little bit I forgot, so I'm adding it on in the end. It might be a little bit of a weird flickery thing, but that's because I've had to sandwich this bit in. There's a bit on Smackdown which is blatantly a botch, but is absolutely hilarious, where Orton is stood on the table and accidentally puts his foot through one of the holes that the monitor's going, and the table goes flipping over. I really hope he's alright, because it did look like he pulled his hamstring quite nastily. But, oh, it was just one of those moments where you was just like, that was so not planned. And I love those little moments. They do make me smile. And of course, CmPunk invading Comic-Con. Everyone's gone crazy. There's a few people that didn't know what Comic-Con was, and I was just like, okay, I may be geek, but I'm English. We don't really get Comic-Con over here anywhere near as much, but I know what Comic-Con is. I've actually got a few videos that I'm pulling up on YouTube that I'm going to watch from this weekend's part of Comic-Con, because a lot of the sci-fi shows do Comic-Con as part of their promotion, so I'm actually really looking forward to watching a lot of that. So yes, this was what was my week in wrestling. Just a few pennies from my thoughts that I had running through my head. For all the people that have asked, yes, I will do the second part of my Q&A at some point. I know, I keep forgetting about it, but I will actually promise to do that, hopefully before I move. But for now, this was Nutty Talk, a week in wrestling, a week in WWE wrestling, I should say. Take care, everybody. Lots of love.